Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. The world's deepest gold mine is deep in profits. Let's explore. Yes, Harmony Gold, who has an interest in the world's deepest gold mine, expects earnings to double for fiscal year 2021. In this article here from Kitco News, Harmony Gold Mining, a senior diversified gold producer, announced that its earnings per share for the financial year that is ended on 2021, June of 2021, which is the end of the fiscal year, are expected to be between 53 and 63 cents a share, which is an improvement of more than 100% on a loss of 10 U.S. cents per share reported in 2020. In fact, if we look at that, their interest is in the world's deepest gold mine. That is Mponeng Gold Mine here. And we know what happened last year, last May, the coronavirus in South Africa, the outbreak closes the gold mine. I guess that means that with this big closure that we saw last year, it's going to skew the numbers. So profits, it's definitely a good thing, especially when you compare it to last year. Headline earnings exclude impairments and the gain on bargain purchases from acquisitions recorded. Explain that the expected earnings growth in the fiscal year 2021 compared to the previous corresponding period are due mainly to the acquisition of Mponeng operations and related assets, increases in revenue because of higher gold prices and gold ounces sold, as well as other factors. There's been a lot of demand over the past year because you think about it, that was a black swan event, and when we saw gold prices hit record highs last August, well above $2,000 an ounce. Harmony Gold has operations and assets in South Africa and also in Papua New Guinea. The company's assets include one open pit mine and several exploration tenants in PNG, as well as 10 underground mines and one open pit operation and several surface sources in South Africa. In addition, Harmony owns 50% of the significant Wafi-Gulpu copper gold project, a Tier 1 asset and a joint venture in Papua New Guinea. And so what about this deepest gold mine in the world? This was shared with me by Dr. Who. And a little bit about the Mponeng mine. You've actually heard me talk a little bit about it in a previous video some time back. It is a depth of 2.5 miles below the surface. Can you imagine a skyscraper standing 2.5 miles tall? We don't even have a half-mile skyscraper, much less a 2.5-mile skyscraper. But I guess it is easier to dig down than it is to build up. Popular culture has created a very specific preconception of what people imagine a mine to look like. Mines are often thought of as crude makeshift structures held up by rickety wooden beams and lit by gas lanterns. While not as pretty as a skyscraper or as innovative as a zero-gravity living space, modern mine shafts are nonetheless comparably complex pieces of engineering that don't get enough credit. The Mponeng gold mine stands out among others of its kind for being the deepest gold mine in the world and demonstrates the pinnacle of mining-related engineering. The tricky thing about mine shafts, especially with the transportation involved, is the raw amount of overhead rock grows as depth increases. Even if a mine shaft isn't very impressive to look at, the fact that it manages to support the weight around it is what deserves consideration. The tunnel walls of Mponeng are standard concrete, shotcrete is specifically what it is, supported with steel rebar. What stands out is that the use of artificial diamonds, which are used to create mesh netting that further supports tunnel integrity. It has a vertical depth of 2.5 miles, which is approximately half of the vertical distance by which Everest stands upward. Transfers between multiple high-speed elevators are required to descend, with the lowest reaches of the mine requiring on-foot hiking. Trip to the bottom takes more than an hour to complete. So if you compare it to skyscrapers, mines do have one design consideration in common with monolithic metropolitan towers: the elevators. Speed, load yield, safety, all factors which must be taken in consideration in design and maintenance of an elevator. Imponeg and, in fact, most mines differ in the size of the elevator in order to sufficiently transport more than 4,000 miners who work in the depths of Imponeg. An elevator cage is sufficiently large to accommodate larger groups of miners and their accompanying weight. It is something. Now, elementary school, we learned about that the earth is comprised of layers much like a cake. We got the crust, which is comprised of the solid land which we live on, the mantle, which is a hyper-compressed sea of magma, and the core, which is the incredibly dense metallic focal point of our planet. The further down one traverses in the crust, the closer they come to approaching the mantle. Go deep enough into the deepest gold mine in the world, and eventually one will experience drastic changes in temperature, as one can imagine, due to the increased proximity to the mantle. The rock at the lowest levels of the mine can reach temperatures of up to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. To put this into perspective, the minimum temperature required to cook an egg is 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. So in order to sustain prolonged work and not cook their miners alive, the mine requires some serious cooling. Imagine the system it would take to have this stuff, internal insulation and pumping the air down there to get it, the cooling. It's a grueling experience as miners have to excavate more than 5,400 tons of rock per day. So what's the trouble for all this? Well, Warren Buffett estimates that all the gold in the world has been mined so far to be able to fit in a cubic square with walls 67 feet long. I've heard that number as 72 feet. While this statistic is highly controversial, gold is understood to be a rare resource, and many fail to realize just how rare. A 72-foot cube might seem rather large if it was sitting right in front of you, but think of that amount across the entire world and the rarity of gold becomes clear. The mine only needs to retrieve 0.35 ounces of gold per ton of rock excavated in order to turn a profit. That just goes to show you that it is worth the exploration and the efforts to mine it. And I don't think anybody understands this probably more than a CEO of a mining exploration company. That gets us to the sponsor portion of this video. And yes, we're talking about uranium now. Quite a shift for sure. But Amir Adnani, who is the founder of Uranium Energy Corporation, is also the founder of two gold companies, Gold Mining Incorporated and Gold Royalty Corporation. And this is quite intriguing, as he knows about gold and knows about mining. And he has a pretty impressive resume himself as the founder of these companies. And he's got some experience here, and he's often gives talks about the industry in general, but also focusing here on the uranium industry. He was selected as one of mining's future leaders by Mining Journal, which is a UK-based global industry publication. Fortune magazine distinguished him in their 40s under 40 ones to watch. So he certainly, at a young age, has gathered quite a lot of experience under his belt and sees a future in uranium mining. And as we look further into uranium in general and about this company and where they are at, they have their eyes on a couple of sites. As he understands, Amir understanding this gold business and what it is also involved in running a uranium company, they own in situ recovery production ready project on U.S. soil, which makes it a rare and special since they're located in Texas and in Wyoming. And the company owns the largest resource base of fully permitted ISR projects of any U.S.-based consumer. So that is certainly something that should be considered if that's something you want to explore or look into, a company that has a future here, especially in the United States, when you look at robust nuclear power growth in other countries around the world. China has announced that it's likely to triple its nuclear power capacity by 2030. India plans for 21 new nuclear reactors. The United Arab Emirates completed one reactor, and there's 3 units under construction. 4 more reactors are under consideration. UK is upgrading their nuclear fleet. to new advanced reactors. Russia is building 36 reactors, and all over the world, it seems, especially in that region. Japan has 33 operable reactors, energy plan targeting 20 to 22% nuclear power. The U.S. is completing 2 new AP1000 reactors in Georgia and has maintained a 20% market share for 30 years with power uprates and efficiency to 32 new reactors for demand growth. So the demand is there, but it has fallen short in the United States, and especially how it's critical to U.S. energy when there are literally now people coming together in Congress. Yes, I'm talking about bipartisan support. You hardly ever hear about that these days, but the first time in 48 years, the Democrat Party now supports nuclear energy. The U.S. Senate has already passed a bipartisan infrastructure bill that provides $6 billion in nuclear credit program for qualifying nuclear plants, with priority given to reactors using uranium production that is produced in the U.S. It has set a goal to reach 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2035, second largest source of electricity. Well, there's no uranium production despite operating the world's largest nuclear reactor fleet. So there's great demand for raw uranium. And I think this is why a company like the UAC has some potential for some long-term growth, especially when you consider the spot price is around $33 a pound. Yes, uranium is a commodity like gold. And you look at the price over the years here, what uranium has been trading at. During the financial crisis that we saw, it had traded kind of low, but at one point it was up to $138 per pound. And then with the Fukushima event in 2011, went up to $70, and now it's trading above its lows. We saw that in 2016, and when it went to $17.75 per pound. So some say it's got some potential to move upwards. So there's potential here, I think, especially when there's an initiative out there, and essentially the United States is ripe for this type of mining. And now obviously there are concerns with not only uranium mining and the safety. Obviously it's a radioactive element, but I think now with technology it has become a lot more manageable, not only in terms of handling waste, but also in the production and environmental concerns. We know with the regulations that are in place now, it's going to be an extremely safe measure as they are looking in these areas across Texas, Wyoming, and other states in between. So if we look at the health of the company here, the cash, equity, and inventory holdings are at around $123.4 million. And they are a member of the Russell 3000, and so it is quite an impressive portfolio here. But as is the case with any company, I would encourage you to do your own due diligence before you consider investing and take a look at their investor profile in depth. They have a very strong team here, and again, Amir Adnani has quite a bit of experience with natural resource companies. And that is part of what makes a good company, as a team around them, as well as all of the professionals that are involved in exploration and mining for uranium. Fascinating subject when you look at uranium, especially how it kind of follows along side with gold in some aspects as a commodity, and especially how many in the gold space are also looking into other metals that are out there, from vanadium, you have lithium, copper, nickel, and I think there's a lot of potential in a lot of these projects, and it looks like here we can see as we look at these projects, we're looking at feasibility studies, drill results, and the timeline, the plan that this company has in place is solid in my view, in multiple different states. Colorado, Arizona, even in other nations, in Paraguay. It looks like it's something that if you are interested in investing in some of these companies, I will put a link in the description below to Uranium Energy Corporation, where you can check and peruse their website and contact with any questions that you have. It's a resource that is there, and an opportunity in another project, especially how it kind of relates to gold. And going back to the deepest gold mine in the world, further discoveries are being made there. They're digging even deeper. And in fact, I saw a documentary on this mine quite some time ago that was dated around 2009. And they estimated after the recent discovery that they could mine gold under their present resources up until 2029. And even at that time, there was yet a deeper vein that they were looking at. And so that's just it. There's constant exploration even at existing mines. So that's why I think that it's fascinating to see how deep these mine companies will go to get deep profits, or how far they will go to explore for new mines and new opportunities out there. And as with any mine, there's a byproduct of other metals that can be mined. And who knows what could be lurking in the uranium mines down there. So if you found this video insightful, post your comments below. And I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.